Okay, I am going to give a demonstration now in real time of how I would approach a portrait. Portraits are probably the most, the need for concentration is the highest on portraits, okay? So I'm using the Procreate app, and I just started on that page so you can see what it looks like if you're not familiar with it. You just download it off of the App Store or wherever you get apps, and then you can start working with it. So let me go back to my, this is my gallery, I guess what they call it. These are works I've done before. You can see I've done children's books. I illustrate with my partner Robin McBlain. She's a writer. And then I've done some portraits here. And so actually doing portraits is what I started doing when I was doing art. Portraits interested me the most. It's not something I really do a whole lot now, though, because I really like landscapes and I really like impressionism, and so my tastes have changed. I'm not showing my face today, not for any reason other than I don't know how to move the camera back and forth between my face and the iPad. So, but the reason I bring up my face is because I'm old. I'm 67 years old. And when I started art, probably I was old enough to hold a pencil or something, and just found myself drawing faces all the time when I was a kid. So, but then it grew. As you can see, here's a landscape right here that I did recently, and because I'm old, I started off, of course, with traditional art, and then when I discovered digital art, it was a little bit of a learning curve. So, all right, so let's make a new canvas. I want to do a portrait of the actor Sean Penn. Let's see. I want to pick a canvas that's large, and I have one in here that's 21 by 27. Here it is, and I'm going to do this format, the portrait format, as opposed to the landscape format, which would be this way. Okay, so this is how I'm starting. Does that lens look like it needs to be cleaned? It looks like it's a little fuzzy. Excuse me while I take a napkin. Where would be here? Is that look clearer? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm not really sure where the lens is on this, but anyway. Okay, so there's our that's our canvas. That's what we're going to work with. It's 21 by 27, rather large. There is a reason for doing it large. It's because if you start large, you can make it small. But if you start small, it's going to be very pixelated if you make it large. Okay, so that's the reason for that. Hopefully you can see all the controls, and I will try to explain everything as I go along. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the reference photo. And I downloaded one off the internet. And so I'm going to bring it in. And there it is, Sean Penn. So there he is. And I want to draw him on this canvas. I would like to give credit to the organization that did I don't know. I don't know who did let me see if I can find it. Wait a minute. I must have the internet on here somewhere. Did I close the internet? I must have closed it. Okay. Well, I apologize. I think it was Movie, M-U-V-I, I think, who I got the picture from, but I really don't remember. Okay, so anyway, so this is the reference photo. I'm going to make it a little bit larger. And then what I'm going to do, you'll see in a second, I'm going to make the canvas smaller. If you were painting a portrait of somebody traditionally with a real paint and a real canvas and a real brush, You would want to be facing them. You wouldn't want to be facing down. Right now I'm facing down on my desk. You want to be facing them in the typical way that you've always seen artists doing portraits, where they're facing their subject. And what they can do with that angle is they can actually look at the lines, the invisible lines, from the top of the head, where the eyes are. And I'm going to show you that now as if it was real, okay? So what I'm using, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to use this. These are the brushes. So what I want to do first is a sketch brush, okay? So it's a pencil. It's called the Procreate pencil. And it's as simple as that. I'm going to make it a black color. And what I want to do is I just want to take an imaginary line, and there's the top of Sean Penn's head. Okay, that's where it's going to be the top. And then another imaginary line, and there's going to be the bottom of his chin. And there's going to be one right there that's going to be where his eye is going to be. Okay? Now the shape of his head and everything, you wouldn't ask somebody sitting for a portrait to turn the picture or turn themselves sideways. So you just have to guess at that, okay? Do your best you can. But there's the bottom of his chin. Now let's go for a little bit more. Let's go to the bottom of his ears. There's the bottom of his ears. Just bring it across, and his ears are right about there. And the top of his ears are right about there. Everything is changeable, even in real paint, especially when you're doing a sketch. What am I saying? A sketch first. Okay. All right, so what we want to do, there's the top of his head. So let's try to make what we think looks like the top of his head going around, okay? And then let's see if I can get it as the right size of his head. Okay, now let's think about his nose for a second. His nose would be right smack in the middle. So there's the middle. There's the middle. And his mouth. Oh, we didn't put the mouth. So just the line that is where the two lips meet. And you can do it like that. Okay? So that would be the line. Let's see if I got that right. Maybe a little bit higher. Use my pencil. Oh, that's about right. That's about right. And remember, everything is changeable. Now I've moved that. Okay, so now there he is. What I already don't like is that it looks off center. So here's the beauty. If this was a real canvas, you would just have to do it over. But since it's digital, let's take that layer and move it over a little bit. In fact, let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's have less of his clothing and more of him. Okay? So there, we're going to go from his chin. That looks good. I like this picture because it's very clear. I don't like it because it's lit from the front. So as we get into it, I'm going to show you how I changed the lighting on it, okay? Now you can see those lines right there. I want to get rid of them. So on Procreate, you just tap it. Oh, I'm sorry, tap this, and it goes away. All right, now I want to make the canvas bigger. And I'm going to make, sorry, I'm going to keep Sean, I know, he's like, I know him. Okay, I'm going to make Sean a little bigger also. Okay, so now let's try and sketch him in. And let's see if we can get him to look like himself. All right, so this is where we use art skills, the years you've put into it. I'm going to move it over again, by the way. The years you've put into learning how to draw and all that. Okay, so he's got small eyes. Actually, everybody kind of has the same size eyes. It's just the appearance of small or large. Okay, and it looks like the distance between his eyes. It's a little bit more space between his eyes than the width of his eyes. So keep that in mind too. Okay, that was his chin right there. Okay, his face goes around. He's got And a general rule for faces, you probably know, is that the eyes are in the middle. And it looks like they are here. So, I don't know. Let's see, there's the sides of this ear, because of this ear right here. So this goes up over here. It actually comes over here. So it's a little wider. And this ear actually comes up. So this part is also a little bit wider. Okay. His hairline, we didn't really establish that, but it's about there. I used to do sketches at different events, fundraisers and stuff like that, and I would do them in charcoal, and I would try to do them in 15 minutes. Typically I did. Now, how good was I at capturing a likeness? I suppose if you were to ask the people who I actually did, some of them would love him. Some of them would say I didn't get them at all. And that's exactly the truth. I wasn't 100% accurate in capturing a likeness when I did portraits. When I did do a portrait that captured a likeness, it was always a good feeling, and it made me wonder why I couldn't get it every single time. So the answer to that is, I think, focus, observation. You just have to keep that focus. Okay, now that looks like those are supposed to be his shoulders, but they're obviously not. His neck starts around here, and this over here it starts around under his ear. Actually, this is more like here. And then we want to give him that little bit of a collar. Bring it up. Okay. So, and then that, just sketch it in real quick. The way his coat is, and he's become a person trying to make a difference in the world. In addition to acting and telling stories through movies, which that does make a difference. It depends on the movies. I'm always amazed at how some actors seem to know which movies will actually make a difference. Okay, let's try to guess the bottom of his nose. It's pretty close. So because he's got a mustache, let's just kind of figure that in. Right now, it looks like a police sketch. Okay, I would say his nose is cut about that wide, and yeah. So he's been trying, to make the world a better place through movies. I mean, you can argue that the early movies of any actor were just for the sake of making a movie, making a name. All right, now, so those right there, that's where we put his eyes, okay? Let me just give a little bit of eye here. It doesn't look like him yet, but I'm going to keep working on that. And his eyebrows do this. They come up a little bit. Okay. Now this line is the middle of his mouth. So he's got the upper lip. Okay, and of course it falls exactly in the middle of the nose, the cleft part of it, or whatever you call that area. And this looks like it comes up. Looks like he's got a bit of a smile. I'm going to show you the eraser too, because I already see some areas I need to erase. All right, but let's just keep sketching. Just like a real pencil, you want to do your best to sketch in what you see. And this is another rule I would like to tell you about. This is my rule. You sketch, or you draw, or you paint if you're doing a portrait now. If it's a landscape, you can take liberties. I love taking liberties. I love the freedom of doing impressionism. Because impressionism, you don't have to draw every tree the way it looks. You don't have to draw every mountain the way it looks. Or paint them. All right, so now he's got a thing going on here where the folds of his skin kind of come up, He's got this that comes around from his nose. He's got this that comes around from his nose. This line from this part of his ear down. And this part of his neck comes out. This is not the young Sean Penn. I don't know how old he is in this picture. But this is... Okay, now let's try and get his hair looking the way he wears it, or at least the way he wore it in this picture. Okay, the reason I want to do this is I want you to see that you can use digital art in a way that it is truly art. I mean, you're not taking a photograph and manipulating it. One might argue that using a photograph in the first place, just as a reference, is somehow cheating or something. But whatever. I think reference photos make art better because, well, let's argue about this a second. I'm going to argue with myself. Take us back in time to before there was photography. Your eye is the camera, okay, and your observational skills is how you do this. You just observe. You just make sure you got it. Okay. Now let's take that eraser. Here's the eraser, by the way. Now in this case, I am going to use, because the erasers can mimic all of the brushes, but I'm going to use the one called airbrushing because it's so clean. So there's the airbrush eraser, and over here, this is how you make it bigger and smaller. So I'm going to make it kind of small. And over here, by the way, is the opacity. So I'm going to make it very opaque because I just want to erase. I just want to get rid of stuff. So let's get rid of some of these lines here. We don't need these lines here anymore. We don't need these lines. And we need the lines for his mouth, but I think it's a little more of an up. He's got a little bit more of an up. It goes up. A little more of a smile. Okay, so I don't want to get rid of all of it so I don't lose where it is. And then down here also, he's got, okay. All right, now let's put it back to the pencil. And on the pencil, we'll continue some of these lines that we see here. His eyes, now see that space between there and there, this looks a little too wide. So I'm gonna redraw that in there. And that would bring everything else over. I'm debating whether I should just do it the old-fashioned way. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. I'm just going to erase it and bring it over. Okay, so let's just erase it. Because what you want to do before you do anything else, we can get rid of these lines. We don't need those lines. Okay. You want to make sure it looks like the person before you start doing the paint. Again, in traditional art, using real paint, you would want to get the sketch looking like the subject. Make sure the likeness is there. And by the way, this process right here could take a very long time. The one thing that digital art does afford you, now I haven't done it yet, but it does afford you the ability to be quicker. Actually, I have done it. When I moved everything over, that was me doing it quicker. Okay, try to eliminate some of these lines because these eyes are not that big. Right now it doesn't look like him, but we're going to do our best to make it look like him. Okay. And we want to remember that these are the dark areas later on when we paint it. Don't worry, we'll still have the photo, but just to give us a little idea here. All right, let's look at this now. Now I'm going to make it smaller again. Let's kind of check everything. Try to put it the same size as him. Let's see if I have a ruler. All right, let's look at some of these things. So there's the top of his head. Okay. And there's his hairline. So I didn't quite get that right. There's his hairline. So his hairline really is here. So let me just draw that in there. Sketch that in. His eyes. Oh. Wait a minute. How could I be that wrong? I must have changed the dimensions a little bit. There's his eyes. And then there's his hairline. Did I not do it right? I might have changed the size of it. There's his chin. There's his mouth, there's his nose. All right. Okay, his eyes, I'm worried about his eyes. If I make it... Okay, I think I made this eye. I think I made this eye a little too high, too far up that way. Now here's a digital trick. Take this and you circle it. And then you take this. Now you pull it down just a little bit. See how I moved it just a little bit? Okay, there. Another thing to notice is where does the corner of his eye... So his corner of his eye matches the edge of his nose on both eyes. So something is wrong here. That one looks right. So what I probably did is I probably drew it too small. Or I made his nose too small. That's probably what I did. Because no offense, Mr. Penn, but you have a nose. You have a big nose. It's okay. Barbra Streisand has a beautiful nose, and hers is considered big. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You kidding me? Of all the gifts God gave you, you'd worry about your nose? No, he doesn't worry about his nose. I'm just making fun. I'm having fun. All right, now I'm trying to shade in a little bit to see if, because shading doesn't help with the sketch. It just helps better see. All right, now right here, I do think it needs to be erased. Okay, let's take that nose and bring it up again a little bit. Now, one of the things, when I would do the 15-minute sketches, like at the hotels and stuff, I didn't have the luxury of taking this much time. So, and I would always tell the people that too. I would say, this is like what you would do as a preliminary sketch. Everything is preliminary. If it takes 15 minutes, it's preliminary. And just so you know, they were not caricatures. I did not do the typical, you know, extra heavy face or extra big nose, or I wouldn't exaggerate features. I would draw them the way that I felt they looked. All right, now what he has here is a little bit of whatever you call that piece of hair when you don't have a beard quite or goatee quite. Whatever that thing is called. And that actually helps give me some more definition to his lower lip. Okay. All right, now that doesn't look completely like him. It almost looks like Richard Gere, doesn't it? But all right, now what I want to do, let me just make sure the edge of his eye. You know, it's really with that part of his nose there. Let me see something. His eyes. Let me make them really big. Okay, his eye. Let's say his eyes are a ½ inch across. No, 1 inch across. 1 inch across. And then the space between his eyes is 1 1/4. So let me see. So 1 1/4 goes to that part of his eye. His eyes are the same, but the distance between his eyes, you know, I think he's got one eye that is higher than the other. It can't be. Must be the angle. Okay, so let me make this one so it's 1 inch, so I can use the same dimensions. So there's 1 inch. Now let's take from there and go 1 1/4 inches. Yeah, it's right there. It's at 1 1/4 inches. And then this should be 1 inch. I think we got it. I think it is right. It's just too sketchy to really see it yet. Okay. Let's start coloring. Let me see. What do I need to do to color? Well, first I want to tell you this. I'm going to use a dry brush. Do you know what? I don't think his head is the right angle. I think that should be... I think this should be more of an angle. Okay, I'm going to use a digital trick here. Ready? I'm going to grab the whole thing, the whole picture, and I'm going to use this distort button. This distort button is going to allow me to... Oh, let me use the warp button. The warp button allows me to pull it in a little bit. You see how that works? Isn't that cool? So now I can move it around. Again, traditional art, you would have to use an eraser. Right now his ear is more straight than that. I might have to do that one traditionally. Okay, all right, let's turn that off. Let's just move that ear. Just grab the ear, and I'm going to just turn it right there, just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's right. So the angle of his face comes up like this, goes up like that. Okay, there's hair. I think I can erase some. I think I made a mistake with that lower thing, but still looks like Richard Gere a little bit. But okay, I think that's enough to work with, and then we can start with the paint and keep adjusting it as we go until we have it looking like him. All right, I'm going to erase some of this up here. And I think this goes higher. I think this goes in there. Yeah. Okay. Let's erase this. Okay, I think that's going to be the sketch. All right, let's do this thing one more time. Let's do, oops. Let's do the warp thing. Let's just okay. A lot of times I'll take the art and I'll do a time lapse of it to show people. But I mean, it's for entertainment purposes. It doesn't really educate anybody. Maybe a little bit, but all right. Let's start. I might do a time lapse of this one also, but I'm going to keep this real time for the art students, the art people who want to. At least I'm not trying to teach you anything. I'm just trying to show you how I do it, and if you learn something from that, then that's good. All right, now in traditional art, you would mix colors, and you would put it on the paper or on the canvas. With digital art, if you don't already know, you have either this or this. You either have the color wheel, and you can change the colors. Do you see that little dot up there? That's going to show me what color is on the brush. So it's, if I put it right there or move this over, see, this makes it darker and lighter. So if it's red, or if it's yellow, or if it's green, or blue, or purple, I prefer this. This is my preferred palette. And this way I can move it around anywhere I want to. Okay, and over here's how I change the colors. And then over here's how I change the intensity. But I really don't even need to move these things. These things. I just need to move this for the colors, because everything else is in this box, the colors that I want. That's one way to do it. I'll show you another way. But first, let me show you this. I want to grab the brush that I'm choosing today. It's not the brush I always use, but it's the dry brush. See, can you see it? Oh, it's kind of at the bottom there. Anyway, it's the dry brush. I'm going to show you why I like it. So I have it selected. Now I'm going to open up another layer, and let's turn off the sketch for a second. So this is the color I've got. I'm going to make the brush really big. I want to show you. You see how the dry brush looks? It looks like a dry brush. Isn't that cool? And so you can use that now to erase with the Procreate. Sorry, I hit my microphone with my eyeglasses. You just take two fingers and you touch it, and each stroke goes away as you touch it. If you want to bring them back, you use three fingers. See that? Three fingers brings them back. There's a lot of shortcuts with Procreate. All right, let's pull the, I'll turn the sketch back on, because now we're going to use it, and everything is changeable. Everything. The point here, the real key to a good portrait is to keep your focus, keep looking. So what we want to do now, we have two layers here. The blue indicates that that's the layer I'm going to paint on. In other words, I don't want to paint on the layer that is the sketch. I want to paint over it. Okay, let me show you why. Let's say I'm going to paint on it. Okay, oh my gosh, look what I did. But if I turn off that layer, it's gone. You see, I didn't really paint on the canvas where the sketch is. All right, let's get rid of that. Now let's try to get his color. So let's just find a color that might be his color. Again, in the world of art, you can have fun. In the world of portrait art, you really have to be perfectly on. But we're going to use dry brush, and we're going to try to make this artsy or painterly. So that's about his color. You know, if you were using real paint, you would mix orange and white and a little blue maybe for his color complexion. So let's switch this to orange. Somewhere there's about an orange. And he's got sort of a pinkness to him. make it a little bit more red than orange. And let's go here. So that's the color I'm picking right now. It could be wrong. I'm not worried about it. Let's make the brush smaller. And remember, we're going to be painting on the layer above him. Let me clear that layer. It looks like there's something still on it. Okay. Now let's just start painting, putting color down. As we do this, we don't want to completely obscure the sketch. We just want to put the color down that we think is approximately his complexion color. And we're going to change that as we go along. And this brush, because it's a dry brush, gives this nice painterly brush stroke look to it. If you're watching this long video, I know that you can stop it and go back and fast forward it if it's something boring. I imagine most people who look at YouTube don't care about this kind of stuff. But, I watch a lot of videos to learn how to do digital art. I knew how to do art, but digital art was something that I learned from, I'll tell you some of the people, and I'm not going to be able to remember all of them, but Will Terry was probably the first one. I don't know if you know Will Terry, but look him up. He's amazing. A lot of things I learned from Will Terry I still use. Have you ever heard of a guy named Angry Miko? Angry Miko is so very, very good. M-I-K-K-O, Angry, M-I-K-K-O. And he doesn't seem angry. I don't know why he calls himself angry, but that's what he does. All right, now I picked a gray, because his hair kind of looks like it's a dark gray. So I'm just brushing this in now. Not worried about it being perfect. Anyway, so there's Angry Miko, Will Terry, Aaron Blaze is a guy I like too. He's really good. Oh my gosh, he is so good. He worked with Disney. Just enough said, right? He was really good. A lot of them have worked with major people. Right now that looks horrible, right? Let's go ahead and put some darkness where his jacket is, just to get that out of the way. Just to kind of establish it anyway. And I'm intentionally going to scruff it up a bit too, just so you know. Yeah, and I'll show you how I do the background too, behind him. I'll show you everything. All right, now, what's wrong with it? It's very flat, and it doesn't look like him. Nobody would, in a million years, would say that's Sean Penn. So what I want to do now is give a little more definition to the lighting that I eventually want. I don't want this lighting. I want lighting coming from this way. So let's try to do a little bit with that. So now, watch this trick. You can put your finger onto the canvas and grab the color. There's the color right there. Now let's go back to this and make it a little bit darker. Okay? Now on the side of his nose, if the light was coming this way, you would see a shadow. And on the side of his nose all the way down, you would see a shadow. On the side of his face, you would see a shadow. On the side of his forehead, I'm just holding it down instead of doing individual strokes, you would see shadows. So let's paint them all in there. Again, I still don't think it looks like Sean Penn. I hope it starts to look like him. Hope we start to get it looking right. So who else have I learned from online? Laura Price. Have you ever seen Laura Price? She's a really pretty lady, but besides that, she is an amazing artist, and she also has worked for Disney, and I think she worked for Paramount. I've watched her. She has a couple of cute dogs too, so it's fun to watch her. All right, now I'm gonna try to sketch in his mustache with my shadow color, just to try to get that to look like it. He's got a gap in his mustache, like a part. The mustache falls, looks like it's directly under the edge of the eyeball, so that looks about right. All right, now let's go for something a little bit more red for his lips, a little darker and redder. And we're going to put that in there. I don't know if you can hear the crows outside. I feed the crows. Let me tell you something, when you get older, you start to feed birds. At least I did. All right, now that really looks like lipstick. It's just horrible, but don't worry. It's all sketched in. I'm going to take care of that. All right, lips, nose. All right, there's some more red in his face, I would say. So let's just do this. Let's add some red. I'm going to add some dark to his hair too, because again, I want there to be shadows here. Okay, I'm not going to do those little wisps yet because I want to make sure I have the skin tone right. Okay, I was telling you who I learned from. So Will Terry is one. Jake Parker is one of Will Terry's friends, and he does really good work, and it's not the kind of art that I would do, because he does, but he's amazing, and he does like for graphic novels, that kind of art. Very, very good. There's a third guy that works with the two of them: Will Terry, Jake Parker, and Lee White. And Lee's got a style that is amazing, beautiful, amazing style. I don't know that I've ever watched a tutorial on digital art with Lee White, but my computer went off for the one I'm monitoring myself with. Okay, so I'm not really using it for the art, but I just want to make sure I'm still recording. So anyway, so those two guys, they have something called SVS Learn. It's an art school online, so if you want to look into that. Oh, Bobby Chiu. Oh my gosh. Bobby Chiu. I think it's CHIU. This is another guy I've watched a lot. He's really, really good. James Gurney does not demonstrate how to do digital art, but this guy is so unbelievable. Just so you know, I don't only do digital art. We go out with the paints. Robin and I go out with the paints and do a lot of that. All right, let's. Right now, to me, it doesn't look like Sean Penn yet, so we got to keep working on it. I'm going to make the reference photo bigger so that I can see what I need to do. Okay. If I can try to line up everything. All right, we're not done laying down colors yet, I don't think. But I would say in this area right here, it's generally a little darker. So let's grab the color from that area and make it a little darker and start sketching it in, especially since I want to put this side of his face into the shadows. So yeah, I definitely did I didn't do a good job. You know what I need to do? This background should not be white. I should have done this in the very beginning. So I'm going to make the background, let's make it like a brownish. Yeah, that looks good. Now it looks like, I don't know who he looks like now. Okay, but that does change it, because now I can put the whites from his shirt, because that's bothering me already, believe it or not. So his shirt actually comes up to here, it looks like, and then comes around. Yeah, see, without that dark background, you can't really see whites. So, and to be honest with you, it really makes for a better portrait anyway when you have a dark background. I did one of Ketanji Brown Jackson, and it really made it pop out when I switched to the darker background. Okay, that's okay. It's not perfect, but that's okay. All right, now we got to start making things that look like light and dark, because right now, because of that background, it all became dark. In this side of his mouth, let's see. All right, let's grab this color again. Let's add a little bit of highlights. I'd like to wait till the end to do this, but I think in order to better see what Sean Penn looks like, to make it look like him, I'm going to paint in some of these light areas as they appear in the photo. You know what? I'm going to do that because then I can add the light and dark later. I think that'd be a better approach. So if you already picked up on it, everything it's like all new. Every time you do a portrait, you use what you've learned before, but you also are learning something new, like every single time. Okay. All right. Everything does not look like him. There's so much that needs to be done to make this look like him. Now, if you were just doing a generic face, you could probably just keep going and not worry about tweaking it. But this is not a generic face. This is an actual face, and this is what I want to show you how to do. The shadows around his nose seem to come in here and then come out there. Okay, and the shadows on the side of his face. Sounds like it's thundering outside. Okay, now I think I am gonna turn everything. I want to try to get his eyes better. Okay. Now what I want to do, I'm going to use another layer, a third layer. With this particular canvas, 21 by 27, let me show you something. Here's the canvas information. This shows, this is what I want, this one. This shows that, layers. This shows that I have only 6 layers to use, and I've already used 4 of them. That's how I like it. I mean, when I do the illustrations for the children's books, I think I have 100 layers. But with a portrait, you want it to be able to be made big if somebody actually wants to print it up. So, all right, so I just want to show you that. So now let me take his eye and really get an understanding of how his eye looks. In the real world, you would be able to see the real eye. You're sitting with the person, right? Okay, so I'm going to take a third layer here. That's where I am. See, it's blue. That means I'm on that layer. I'm going to make this brush kind of small. And I'm going to just try to draw his eye, you might say, with paint or with digital paint. Okay. And then let's take a gray for the whites of the eyes. The whites of the eyes are always better when you render them as gray or light brown or light blue or even like Payne's gray. His eyes to me appear to be bluish green. So that looks like the color of his eyes. We can always fix that. Okay. And it looks like the shape of his eye, I'm going to take some of this color here. Looks like the shape of his eye goes down like that. And then over here, and this would have a little bit more of a red tone to it. So it goes down there. A bit more brown. Okay, let me make these lashes, his eye line a little bit more, a little darker. And above his eyes, a little darker. Okay, his pupil is black. Everybody's pupil is black. He's got around the edges, he's got, like we all do, the line around the edges. That's not the right color of his eyes, so I'm going to have to fix that. Okay. That looks like an accurate, better anyway. I think it's more along this area here. That's starting to look better. Okay, let's make the pupil a little bigger. Okay. Now let's take the white of his eye. I'm going to sample the white of his eye, and I'm going to make it a little bit darker because there's always a shadow on the eye itself. And there's a reflection in his eye, of course, so let's just take white. In his case, his reflection's right there. Okay. And then this color up here, it's got a little bit of a pinkness to it. So let's add that there. That same color appears here, a couple different places. And then his eyebrow looks like it's just a darker color. Some of the sketch is going to remain in the picture, and other parts of the sketch will not. All right, so there looks to be one of his eyes. Now, did I make it slant too much? I think I did. I think I did. So, again, we can fix that. Yeah, see? His eye does not slant quite like that. Again, in traditional paint, you would paint over this. This is not traditional. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these 3 layers, and I'm just going to merge them all together. I'm going to use the sketch. Sometimes I erase the sketch when I'm done, but I'm just going to use all 3 layers, merge them down. Now I have 1 layer. Now, with 1 layer, I can take his eye and I can rotate it a little bit. Whoops, made a mistake there. Whoops, you get rid of that. Get rid of that, okay. I'm going to take this. I'm just going to grab his eye, and I'm going to pivot it just a little bit. How you like that? Huh? I think it's even a little bit lower. Okay, again, I can always move it. All right, now, look, when I did that, look at what happened here. See these gaps right here? Well, you do not want gaps. I would be crazy. So here's a tool I haven't shown you yet. This is the blending tool or the smudging tool. And again, this tool will push paint around without putting new paint down. And again, it mimics the brushes, so I'm going to keep it set to the dry brush, and I'm going to make it kind of a medium size. And I'm going to do, so I'm going to push the paint around to fill in those gaps. I might do this process numerous times, by the way, in the course of making this painting. Just all those gaps, you just fill them in with the smudging tool or the blending. In pastels, you have a blending stump. So, and I use pastels. Okay. All right. Right now, it's starting to look a little bit like him. Huh? What do you think? I'm not sure. Almost looks like Bowie too. Okay. All right. So, again, we're working one piece at a time. So now let's go to the other eye. Let's look at his other eye. Does that eye look a little wider? Yes, it does. It's a little more open. I don't know if it's always that way or if it just looks that way. And we're going to have to use this as a reference because it's over here. So what I might do is just take this skin tone color and maybe a little pinker. Yeah, because it really comes down to here. So let's just cover it all in. Give it a little bit lighter here. Okay, and his eyebrows come pretty close to his eyes. Okay, so right there. Okay, again, we can move it when we're done with it. Okay, so let's try to draw that eye in now. And it's right in line with the edge of his nose. So we want to do that. We'll kind of redo it because I think the sketch didn't quite get it right. Okay, let's take some of this and pull it down. Now this kind of is the way you would do it in traditional paint. All right, now I'm going to steal this color from this side because I already have it. It's not quite right, but it's there, so I don't have to worry about mixing it. It's kind of like having color already on your palette. And the same thing with the white of his eyes. I'll just put that in there, make it a little bit more white. Okay, now let's go ahead and give him a more defined eye line. I didn't really finish telling you everybody who I have learned from online for digital art. I mentioned James Gurney, who does not do digital art, but you gotta look at some of his videos. And what's really good about these guys is that they all reference other people also. So if you really want to learn online how to do some of these things, start with one of them, and they will all lead you to others. They all mention others. And in some cases, I think Will Terry and Jake and Lee, they interview people, and sometimes you discover people that way. Okay. Let's give them the reflection in the eye. And let's just check it out. Is it starting to look like Sean Penn? It is. It is starting to look like him. Still looks like Bowie to me, though. Sorry. I moved to the camera or the phone. All right, now let's go to the mouth. The mouth needs to be more defined. So let's take that mouth and, you know what? Let's take the mustache first. Let's define that mustache a little bit darker. It comes from his nose, not out of his nose, but comes from his nose. Okay, and let's make a dark line, even though it doesn't really have a dark line there, but just so we have something to work from. This is where I was talking about earlier. He has a little bit of a smile, just a tad. I assume he was posing for this picture. I don't know. Okay, I think it's a little bit lower too. There's his mustache. Let's put some light right there. A little pinker. Okay, darker. Okay. And lighter. Let's give a light highlight there at the bottom of his lip. Does that do anything? Doesn't seem like it's doing anything. What is it, just not dark enough? Just needs to be darker, I think. Okay, a little bit more red. Seems like it should be redder. More pink. Alright, and then we're going to have some of these dark lines again, make his mustache is considerably darker. It's kind of sparse or thin. And then the hair down here. Oops. And the hair down here under his lip. Make the brush a little bigger. And a little bit lighter here. All right, let's see if it looks like Sean Penn now. Oh, it's definitely starting to look like Sean Penn. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there, kids. All right, still got a little bit of a Bowie look to him, though, huh? Does Sean Penn look like Bowie? All right, so now what we have is oh, I've been working on the same layer. I didn't realize that. So everything I did is on the same layer, but I'm going to add another layer now. Okay. I add layers because if I make a big mistake, I can always fix it by getting rid of the layer. So, all right, so let's continue. Right now, to me, it looks like he definitely has more red in his face. But I think what I'm really concerned about is, does it look like him? Let's check things. That goes there. This comes out. This is like this. Okay, the only thing I'm not happy with is this ear, because it really comes in more. So I have to go back to the first layer, and I'm going to do that little trick. going to grab his ear, and I'm going to use the warp setting. I'm going to pull it in. It's equal to that part of his nose, so that looks good. And that's up above his eyebrow, so maybe it needs to be a little bit higher. So above his eyebrow. And this ear also, so let's go ahead and do that ear. When you get a haircut, they say, did you lower your ears? Well, see, in this world, you can really lower somebody's ears or raise them. Okay, let's put his ear up a little bit more. Looks like Spock right there. Dr. Spock. Or Mr. Spock, sorry. All right, that one goes equal to his nose, and that one goes above his eye. Okay, so there. Now we've moved those two pieces to better reflect what he really looks like. Where do I want to go now? All right, let's go back to that second layer. We don't have anything on it yet. And let's work on his hair, I think. He's got lines on his forehead also, we got to remember. We'll do some of those details later. Let's get to the hair first. Okay, so the hair, I'm changing my mind about how I'm doing it. I am going to make the light come from the side. But I think I'm going to use this layer right here for just the hair, because then I can put stuff under it. See, I was avoiding the hair because I wanted to be able to paint stuff over it and then paint the hair last, but I think I'm going to... Boy, it's raining outside hard. Okay, now let's take some of this dark and bring some of those wisps of hair down. I want to show you why I'm keeping this a separate layer. He's got sideburns. Okay, I didn't realize he had sideburns. They're kind of gray though, so let's not make him look like Elvis. Okay, I'm gonna take some of these dark hairs that just kind of fly down here. Some of those. And those hairs all have reflections on them also. So let's look at his hair better. So if you're watching this long, thank you. I hope my computer can record this much. I don't know. All right, let's make it a little bit brighter on those highlights, those reflective areas. A couple reflective areas on his hair that's hanging down there. And I think these sideburns are there. Whoops. But they're gray. So they're not as Elvis-y looking. Okay, now I put that on a separate layer, so watch what happens when I turn the layer off. See, the hair goes on and off. So I'm going to keep that separate like that for a little bit, because I'm going to do another layer, and I'm going to put it underneath the hair, that last one I did, because the coloring of his face, the complexion, is not exactly right. Now, I will say this, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. Somebody could be in lighting, but in this case, I think I do want to kind of create a little bit of a, more of a pink look to him, because it seems like he's probably got a complexion that radiates a little bit, if that makes sense. Well, personality-wise, I'm not talking about. Everybody has a personality that radiates. And I guess everybody has a complexion that radiates at times, right? Okay, so I'm just filling in some of these ear things that I felt like I got wrong. Okay, let's go back to that pinkish color. Give him some pink on his cheeks. Some pink on his face, on his neck. Make the brush big so I can just brush it in there. Boy, it is storming outside. If you don't know, I live in Florida, and Florida can have some pretty big storms. All right, now he does have lines in his forehead, so we're going to try to create them. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Between those lines, there's some reflection. Okay. What do you think? Is it starting to look like him? Let's put some gray on his collar. Just want the light to be coming from the side here. Okay. I'm going to try something. So now I'm going to put all these layers together. The hair, the face, everything. And I'm going to try something. This is a trick. You couldn't do this with traditional, but this is a digital trick. I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to duplicate it. Now let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. Do you see what happened? It made it richer looking. There it is without the two. There it is with both of them. So definitely want to keep it. That's the beauty. You don't have to keep things if you don't like them. All right, now I'm going to be honest with you. It's raining out there, and I'm a little bit worried that the electricity is going to shift. So I'm going to use this smudging tool a little bit, and I'm going to move some of these pixels around that I'm not quite happy with. Like that one right there. Okay, so this is similar to moving paint around. Okay, all right, now let's think about the background. Well, we want to put both of these together. And now we're going to make, oh, I'll tell you what I'm going to do first. I want to duplicate him again. Now this is not for the enrichment of the color, but what I want to do here is I want to color him in completely. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to put the alpha lock on, and I'm going to turn off the bottom layer, and now I'm going to sample the background color as it is, because we've been working with that color. We don't want to lose it. Now watch this. You're going to think I'm nuts, but I'm going to color his whole face in. I'm going to cover everything. I'm painting over it. Look at that. See that? I'm just covering it all. Why am I doing that? Oh my gosh. I'm going to show you why I do that. Because we have a layer here. I'm covering it all up. Now everything that I did looks like it's gone, but don't worry, it's not. Because you see there's two layers. The bottom layer is still there. So now if I put the top layer, the bottom layer, on the top of that, now that layer is there. Let's get rid of the base. Now watch what happens. Now see, there's the layer I just did. Now you see the layer is not completely there. There's some gaps. That's because there were gaps in the canvas. But what we want to do is we want to fill this completely with that same color. So let's turn off the alpha lock. Turn it off. And then we're going to grab this. We're going to color in everything that didn't get that color, because we don't want that black background, or that transparent background really, shining through. We do not want that. I'm going to show you why. Now here's the odd thing. I'm going to show you why, but I know that sometimes it actually looks better the other way. So I can always go back if I don't like it. Okay, so now it's completely covered in. This is the part that I don't know if I've ever shared this with anybody before or not, except for Robin. Okay, now there's the portrait we have, and the background, this thing is still there. Watch what happens when I remove it. Okay, you see all those blotchy areas? Let me make it bigger. Let me make the reference photo smaller. I can't right now. All right, but watch when you take it away. See all the blotchy? The blotchy goes away because you're keeping the color of the canvas that you've been working with behind him. Now you want to merge these two layers, and voila, you've got it. Put the background back in there, and there it is. Now we're going to use this blank layer we created here, and we're going to put it behind him. And back there we're going to just do swishes. I'm going to try to do swishes that are in the same palette as him. So, oops, why is that doing that? Oh, see, I'm on his layer. That was not good. Don't do that. Go to the layer you want. There it is. There you go. All right, now I'm just going to try to create something that might look like it could be an evening someplace, something more dramatic than the gray background of the reference photo. A little bit more dramatic, something going on back there that's a little bit blurred out. I'm going to try to keep it darker on the left side, and you'll see why in just a moment. Put some light areas back there. And some more dark areas back here. So I'm just smearing paint around, and again, because this is the dry brush, it gives it that amazing brush painterly look. More than this one though. The turpentine brush does it. The oil brush does it. The watercolor brush is amazing too. I love the gouache brush. Okay, I'm going to throw in some of these reds because he's got some red in his complexion. And then just add some. I'm just really just being very random, very abstract here. When I did Ketanji Brown Jackson's portrait, she was wearing a nice blue jacket or something, and I thought, well, that works well if I add red and white. I mean, she's being considered for the Supreme Court of the United States. Okay, so there we have the first part of what I want to do. It's still kind of painterly, sketchy looking. It's still, you know what we want to do now is let's double it up again. It didn't change it, did it? So just leave it like that. Right now, what I want to do is I want to add another layer, and this time I'm going to go to what's called multiply. You see where it says multiply right there? So I'm going to make that a multiply layer. In the multiply layer, I'm going to grab, let's say, this color right here. Now watch what it does. I bring it over, I let it go, it colors the whole thing in. Everything just got darker. So you see when I turn off that layer, it's brighter. When I turn on that layer, it's darker. What I want to do, first of all, is I want to make it a clipping mask. So let's clip it. Now what that did is it turned off the part that's behind him. So you see now it's only on his face. See? Now watch this beautiful thing. Take the eraser, make sure it matches the paintbrush. Right now it doesn't. It's set. Remember we had the eraser set to airbrush. So now we want to set it to dry brush because we want it to be identical to the brush we've been working with. Watch this beautiful technique. You grab this and you start erasing every place you want. Now I'm gonna lower the opacity a little bit so it's not so harsh. Just every place where you see that you want light to be hitting Sean Penn. Right now it looks a mess and you're trying to figure out why would I even do this? Well, let's hope I don't want to do the same thing. Let's hope I get it right. Okay. So there's light hitting there. There's light hitting the side of his nose, the side of his face. Okay. His hair's got their reflections in it. Some backlighting happening there. Okay. Now one thing I do think is I think I made the Procreate layer a little bit too harsh. So that's fixable. You take this button here and you change the opacity. So now it looks like that. Now let's see what it looks like with it on and off to show the difference. See how that little hint of a shadow happens there? Hold on. See how that little hint of a shadow happens? Watch. There. Shadow. No shadow. See on the side of his face? See? I think I want to make it a little bit more contrasty. There. How's that look? A little bit more contrasted. Okay. Now, I think I want to get rid of the reference photo. So I'm going to get rid of the reference photo, and I'm going to finish the painting using the. Well, let's make everything together, so it's all one. Okay, we're happy with all of that. So bring that down and bring this down. Now we have everything on that layer. Trying to decide if I want to include the background. No, I don't think I do. All right, so now what I want to do is duplicate him again. So there he is again. I'm going to turn off keep them all on. So keep the background, the underlayer, and the overlayer of him. And what I want to do is I want to mess it up. Are you believing this? All right, so now we have the smudge brush set to dry brush. Ready? We're going to mess up Sean Penn's hair. We're going to just drag it, pull it off to the side. Just do that kind of stuff. Why would you do that? Why would you do Well, the reason is because it gives it this really cool, very cool artsy look. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes you have to undo it or anything like that. Now, do you think I got him? Oh, it's really thundering bad. Now, do you think I got him? The one thing I don't like about this is these obvious sketch marks. So I can perhaps take the smudge brush and smudge some of them away. Doesn't look like it's working. Oh, I see what's happening. Okay. Okay. Well, let's combine those two layers. Now let's try to undo that. I don't like that. Okay. Yeah, that's why I made a mistake. Whoops, it's still there. Yeah, keep that there like that. Well, I guess that just has to be like that. Okay. Let me merge those two together before I mess it up anymore. And the only last thing I think I want to do is I'm going to use what's called curves. Here's the curves. And it's a graph here. And I'm going to go to the red because he has a little bit more red in him than I gave him. Just a touch. Let's just see what happens with the blue. And then let's even try green. No, that one didn't help. And then finally the gamma. You know what? I don't like any of it. So I think I'm just going to leave it like it is. All right. Well, there you go. I think we're going to say it's done. That is a portrait of Sean Penn. I would, if it wasn't a demonstration, I think I would probably take longer to do it. But I wanted you to see kind of how I do these things. And there you go. That's how I do them. All right, kids. Hope you had a good time. All right. Thank you for watching. Bye.